The air crackled with anticipation. The crowd was electric, buzzing with the kind of energy that only comes from the promise of witnessing something extraordinary. Fans had been waiting for this moment for months, their excitement building with every passing day. The arena was a sea of team colors with banners waving and chants echoing through the stands. It was a scene set for a hero's welcome. Paige Bueckers, the most hyped WNBA prospect in years, was finally taking the court for the Dallas Wings. Her journey to this point had been nothing short of spectacular. From her high school days where she dominated the court to her collegiate career where she became a household name, Bueckers had always been destined for greatness. The expectations were sky high and everyone believed she was the missing piece that would elevate the Wings to championship glory. Fans held their breath expecting fireworks. Instead, they got a damp squib. The game started with a flurry of activity, but it quickly became apparent that things were not going as planned. The crowd's initial excitement turned to confusion and then to disappointment. The cheers grew quieter, replaced by murmurs of concern. This was not the debut anyone had envisioned for Bueckers. The Wings fell to the Minnesota Lynx, and Bueckers looked lost at sea. She struggled to find her rhythm, her usual confidence seemingly evaporated under the bright lights. Every missed shot and turnover added to her frustration. It was a harsh introduction to the professional league, a stark contrast to her previous successes. The weight of expectations seemed to press down on her shoulders, making every movement labored. This wasn't the dream start anyone envisioned. The final buzzer sounded and the scoreboard told a grim story. The Wings had not just lost, they had been outplayed in every aspect. The players walked off the court with their heads down, the sting of defeat evident in their body language. The fans too left the arena in a somber mood, their high hopes dashed in a single game. The loss exposed deeper issues within the Wings organization, particularly the questionable coaching decisions of Nalissa Smith. Critics had long questioned Smith's strategies, and this game seemed to validate their concerns. Her rotations were puzzling, and her in-game adjustments were either too late or ineffective. The team looked unprepared, and the blame was quickly directed at the coaching staff. The game was a stark reminder that talent alone doesn't guarantee success. The Wings had a roster full of potential, but potential means nothing without proper execution. The players seemed disconnected, their individual talents failing to coalesce into a cohesive unit. It was a humbling experience, a reality check that the road to success would be far more challenging than anticipated. Bueckers, despite her pedigree, couldn't single-handedly lift the Wings. She had moments of brilliance, flashes of the talent that had made her a sensation, but they were too few and far between. The pressure on her to perform was immense, and it was clear that she needed more support from her teammates and coaching staff. Basketball is a team sport, and even the greatest players need a solid foundation to thrive. The team seemed disjointed, lacking the synergy and flow expected from a championship contender. Passes were errant, defensive assignments were missed, and the overall play was chaotic. It was as if the team had forgotten the basics of basketball, each player trying to do too much on their own. The lack of chemistry was glaring, and it was something that needed to be addressed immediately. The blame, many argue, lies squarely on the shoulders of the coaching staff. Their inability to adapt and make necessary changes during the game was a significant factor in the loss. Timeouts were called, but the adjustments made were either ineffective or poorly executed. The coaching staff looked stressed, their frustration evident, as they tried to rally the team. It was a situation that demanded introspection and immediate action. The Wings, despite boasting a roster brimming with talent, looked like strangers on the court. Passes went astray. Defensive assignments were bungled. The fundamentals of the game seemed to elude them, and it was a disheartening sight. The players' struggles were not just physical but also mental, as the pressure of the game seemed to weigh heavily on them. It was a collective failure that needed to be addressed from the ground up. The offensive flow was stagnant, often devolving into isolation plays. Instead of working as a unit, players resorted to individual efforts, which rarely succeeded. The ball movement was sluggish, and the lack of creativity in their plays was evident. It was a far cry from the dynamic, fast-paced basketball that fans had hoped to see. The team needed to find a way to integrate their individual talents into a cohesive offensive strategy. It was clear that Coach Smith's game plan was failing, but her adjustments, or lack thereof, only exacerbated the situation. The confusion on the court mirrored the confusion on the sidelines. Players looked to the bench for guidance, but what they received was often too little, too late. The lack of a clear, effective strategy was a glaring issue that needed to be resolved if the Wings were to turn their season around. The loss stung, but it was the manner of the defeat that set alarm bells ringing. It wasn't just that the Wings lost, it was how they lost. The lack of fight, the absence of a coherent game plan, and the visible frustration among the players were all troubling signs. It was a wake-up call for the entire organization, a signal that changes needed to be made, and quickly. Bueckers, the supposed savior, was rendered a mere spectator in her own debut. She sat on the bench, her expression a mix of disappointment and determination. It was a humbling experience, but also a learning one. She knew that this was just the beginning, and that there would be many more challenges ahead. The key was to learn from this experience and come back stronger. The Wings season, while still young, already felt precariously balanced on a knife's edge. The potential for greatness was there, but so was the potential for disaster. The team needed to regroup, refocus, and find a way to harness their collective talents. It was a pivotal moment, one that would define their season. The players and coaching staff had to come together, put aside their differences, and work towards a common goal. Would they rally around their young star, or would this be the start of a tumultuous chapter in Dallas? The answer lay in their hands. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was also filled with possibilities. The Wings had the talent, the potential, and the drive. Now, they needed to find the heart and the unity to turn their season around. The next few games would be crucial, and the world would be watching to see how they responded. NaLyssa Smith, once lauded for her tactical acumen, found herself at the center of a brewing storm. Her coaching career, which had been marked by innovative strategies and a keen understanding of the game, was now under intense scrutiny. The recent game against the Lynx was a glaring example of how things had taken a turn for the worse. Fans and analysts alike were left questioning her decisions, wondering if the once celebrated coach had lost her touch. Her decisions throughout the game were perplexing, to say the least. From the very beginning it seemed as though Smith was out of sync with the flow of the game. Her gestures from the sidelines were often confusing, leaving players unsure of their roles and responsibilities. This lack of clarity translated into a disjointed performance on the court, with players frequently looking to the bench for guidance that never came. Defensive assignments seemed almost random, often leaving the Lynx's most potent scorers wide open. The defensive confusion was palpable, with players frequently out of position and unable to execute even the most basic defensive schemes. This lack of organization allowed the Lynx to score at will, turning what should have been a competitive game into a one-sided affair. One of the most glaring errors was Smith's insistence on playing a traditional center, Tiara McCowan, against the Lynx's smaller, more mobile lineup. McCowan, known for her dominance in the paint, was left chasing quicker, more agile players around the perimeter. This mismatch was exploited time and again, with the Lynx using their speed and agility to create easy scoring opportunities. The result was predictable. McCowan was repeatedly exposed on defense, unable to keep up with the Lynx's quick cuts and drives to the basket. Each time the Lynx attacked, it seemed as though they were one step ahead, leaving McCowan and her teammates scrambling to catch up. This defensive vulnerability was a key factor in the team's downfall. Smith's rotations were equally baffling. Key players, like the explosive Djane, were benched for extended periods, disrupting their rhythm and limiting their impact on the game. Djane, who had been a consistent performer throughout the season, was left watching from the sidelines during crucial moments. This decision not only affected the team's performance but also seemed to undermine the confidence of the players. Meanwhile, other players clearly struggling were left on the court, seemingly immune to substitution. These players, exhausted and error-prone, were unable to contribute effectively, further compounding the team's problems. The lack of timely substitutions left many wondering if Smith was even aware of the issues unfolding on the court. The lack of in-game adjustments was perhaps the most damning indictment of Smith's coaching. As the game progressed and the Lynx continued to build their lead, Smith seemed paralyzed, unable to make the necessary changes to stem the tide. Her inability to adapt to the evolving dynamics of the game was a stark contrast to her earlier reputation as a master tactician. Even as the Lynx built a comfortable lead, Smith seemed content to stick with her original game plan, a plan that was clearly failing. Her stubbornness in the face of mounting evidence that changes were needed was baffling to many. It was as if she believed that sheer willpower alone could turn the tide, ignoring the glaring deficiencies in her strategy. The result was a demoralizing defeat that left fans and analysts scratching their heads. The once promising season now seemed in jeopardy, with many questioning whether Smith could turn things around. The disappointment was palpable, not just among the fans but also within the team. The road ahead looked uncertain, and Smith's ability to navigate it was now under serious doubt. Amidst the wreckage of the Wings' opening night debacle, a few sparks of brilliance managed to shine through. The game was a roller coaster of emotions, with fans experiencing the highs of individual excellence and the lows of a collective struggle. The Wings, despite their best efforts, found themselves on the losing end, but not without some standout performances that gave the crowd something to cheer about. Hines-Allen, a versatile forward known for her all-around game, put on a clinic of offensive efficiency. Her ability to read the defense and make quick decisions was on full display. She showcased her skills not just as a scorer but also as a playmaker, setting up her teammates with precision passes. Her court vision and basketball IQ were evident as she navigated through the defense with ease. She attacked the basket with a vengeance, finishing with an array of acrobatic layups and pull-up jumpers. Each move was a testament to her hard work and dedication to her craft. Her footwork was impeccable, allowing her to create space and get her shots off against even the toughest defenders. The crowd erupted with each basket, appreciating the artistry of her game. Djane, the Wings' energetic center, was another bright spot. Her presence in the paint was undeniable, and she brought an intensity that was infectious. From the opening tip, Djane was a force, using her size and strength to dominate the boards and protect the rim. Her energy was palpable, and it seemed to lift her teammates whenever she was on the court. Despite early foul trouble, she was a force to be reckoned with in the paint. Her ability to play through adversity was commendable. Even with the risk of fouling out, Djane continued to play aggressively, challenging every shot and fighting for every rebound. Her determination was a sight to behold, and it was clear that she was giving everything she had for her team. Her athleticism and tenacity were on full display as she battled for rebounds and swatted away shots with authority. Djane's timing and anticipation were key factors in her defensive prowess. She seemed to be everywhere at once, disrupting the opposing team's offense and providing a much-needed spark for the Wings. Her hustle plays and relentless effort were a highlight of the game. However, even their impressive performances were overshadowed by the team's overall lackluster display. The Wings struggled to find a rhythm, and their defensive lapses were costly. Turnovers and missed assignments plagued the team, and it was clear that they were not on the same page. The frustration was evident on the faces of the players and coaches alike. Djane in particular was hampered by Coach Smith's questionable decision to keep her in the game with 4 fouls. The decision raised eyebrows and ultimately proved to be a turning point in the game. With Djane on the verge of fouling out, the Wings' defense became vulnerable, and the opposing team took full advantage. It was a gamble that did not pay off. The gamble backfired as Djane eventually fouled out, leaving the Wings further depleted. Her absence was felt immediately, and the team struggled to fill the void. The momentum shifted, and the Wings found themselves on the defensive, unable to mount a comeback. The loss of their energetic center was a blow that they could not recover from. Despite the loss, the performances of Hines-Allen and Djane offered a glimmer of hope for the Wings. Their individual efforts were a reminder of the talent that exists within the team. Both players showed that they have the potential to be game changers, and their performances were a bright spot in an otherwise disappointing game. They demonstrated the individual talent that exists within the team. Hines-Allen's scoring ability and Djane's defensive prowess were on full display, and it was clear that they have the skills to compete at a high level. Their performances were a testament to their hard work and dedication, and they provided a blueprint for what the team could achieve with the right support and strategy. However, it was becoming increasingly clear that talent alone wouldn't be enough. The Wings needed a cohesive game plan and a coach who could unlock the team's full potential. The individual brilliance of Hines-Allen and Djane was not enough to overcome the team's shortcomings. It was evident that the team needed to come together and play as a unit if they were to succeed. The Wings desperately needed a cohesive game plan and a coach who could unlock the team's full potential. The talent was there, but it needed to be harnessed and directed in a way that maximized the team's strengths. The performances of Hines-Allen and Djane were a step in the right direction, but there was still much work to be done. The future of the Wings depended on their ability to come together and play as a team, with a clear strategy and a unified goal.